hello everybody. Welcome to the Rock Consultant Weekly Webinar. For those of you who haven't seen me before or haven't visited a webinar, I'm Leah Nelson, and I work on the education team with Josh Gregory, who is our frequent webinar host here at Rock Consultant. I primarily work with financials and business analysis and all of our different sectors and silos and checking out market trends, figuring out business worths, things like that, all those good things. So for our regular attendees, welcome back. Whether you are brand new to the industry or you've been a contractor since the RPS days, we want these webinars to be places you can learn and get all of your questions answered. So before we get started with the content today, I do have to read a quick disclaimer, as we do every week. So Route Consultant is not endorsed by, is not recommended by Federal Express Corporation, FedEx Ground, or Amazon. Route Consultant is not sponsored by, is not approved by, is not associated with, and has no connection whatsoever with Federal Express Corporation, FedEx Ground, or Amazon. So basically all this means is that you will not hear any materially non-public information here today on the webinar, but we hope you hear some helpful information nonetheless. One more note for all of our viewers today before we get started. We will have time at the end of the webinar for a Q&A session. So whether you want to submit questions on today's topics or any other topic that you have questions about, you can submit those in the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen. Please do not use the chat feature. I will probably not see your question if you put it in the chat feature, but if you put it in the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen, we will take a look at those at the end of the webinar. So today we're going to be chatting about basically kind of a post-peak recap and right-sizing your business, after peak with our P&D experts, which are Amy and Dave Byers. And with that, we will welcome on Amy and Dave.
Hi, I'm Dave Byers, Slicker Trucking. We operate P&D, line haul, as well as custom critical.
And I'm Amy Byers. I work alongside of Dave, and we run all these divisions together. I handle most of the operations, HR, kind of all the operations side of things, while Dave handles more of the contractual and trucking kind of logistics side of things.
Perfect. Yeah, and y'all are definitely experts in the industry. We value all of your content and advice. So we'll just go ahead and hop in here. So basically, just really quickly, just give us a summary of your peak season. I know we're right outside of it and exiting it, just really this week. So how did that go?
So I think the common theme through the entire peak was volume and bulk. I don't think that we've ever seen a peak like this in the 18 years. Even during COVID, I don't think we were prepared quite for the volume push that we had seen. What do you think?
Yeah, we usually plan for 3 to 5 peak days. And we had every single day was a peak day, max capacity every single day.
10-20% over our daily stop threshold, which is your say no number. We in past have only hit that number. We hit our bonus numbers, but we don't hit our daily stop threshold. But just like Dave said, 3 to 5 days maybe out of the year, and we were above it on Saturdays and Sundays. Just odd, crazy volume. So there's a blessing and a curse, right? You plan for one thing. So we know the forecasting wasn't 100% correct. That was a little bit of a pain point. Dro, I know being that we're in line haul as well, we know that they were pushing volume to the line haul market and the hub market. So we knew that the numbers were going to be off, but a lot of people couldn't see that. So they were doing a lot of premiums and processing a lot of trailers ahead of time, trying to get ahead of the curve, which caused a lot of that dro discrepancy. Forecasting obviously wasn't, I'm not going to go there. I don't know if that was, there's lots of different reasons. But then on the blessing side is that, FedEx sales, they're doing their jobs, right? They got a lot of the volume back for us. Hopefully we did a good enough job to maintain those throughout the rest of the year and prove that we can handle some of the things. I know part of that is growing your business is taking some of those big packages that we didn't want to, but if it's going to gain us more foot space in this industry, then maybe that's something that we got to take on the chin right now. But otherwise, morale was up. Profitability was definitely up. It hurt. Was not easy for us or our drivers. But we made it work. We had different plans for the staffing that we had. We had thought that we could help in a lot of the different contingency areas and be available for flex and things like that. And we ended up really
Covering our own stuff.
covering our own stuff. The volume was just so much. And we just didn't want to let that sit. So we were perfectly sized, though going into peak thinking that we were what we like to call the O word, which is overstaffed. We don't like to say that word around here, but we did think that we were in a good position to really help, and it ended up just kind of saving ourselves. So it was good for us, but I know a lot of companies did not do that. They hired exactly the amount of people to keep their budgets in line and ended up falling short.
Yes, I've heard that as well. So, now that peak is over, I know we're definitely kind of in a shifting gear mindset here. So, what are your kind of immediate, like, first of the year plans for your business?
So Dave and I, over the course of 18 years, have kind of automatically in autopilot come through kind of what needs to be done in the beginning of the year. And with, us are participating with you guys, it's become more of a focus to us to kind of note some of these things, and not just that we do these things kind of on autopilot, but why and why these things are important. So things like, I wrote a couple of things down, like right sizing your staff, doing performance reviews, truck insurance audit, making sure that your rentals are returned, making sure that your scanners, Dave has a big project. He'll talk about scanner audits, revisiting your maintenance providers or looking into doing your own maintenance, maybe, figuring out if what you did during peak worked for you. This is the time of year to kind of double check, reassess, and make changes if you need to. And then there's a laundry list of housekeeping, things that FedEx is going to ask you for. It's the time of the year for compliances and in line haul 2290s. The tax forms are due, and all of these things that need to be, these boxes that need to be checked. It's a perfect time to get ahead of those things. But those are the things that we kind of lose sight about. After the peak, we're kind of like exhale. And that's kind of the time to like take a quick breath and keep moving.
It comes quick too. Like our scanners, we need to get rid of the scanners, right? We rented them till January 15th. Today's already January 8th. We feel like we just crossed the new year yesterday. So we have 7 days to get the scanners returned. So we have to collect the rentals, make sure we have them all. Get the rental batteries, which we didn't use. We kept them off to the side, include all that, bundle them, get those all back. And Amy touched on it, but one of the most important things, return the rental trucks. It's easy to just leave them in the fleet and keep them absorbed, but it's just not, there's not enough meat on the bone there to keep those rental trucks in the fleet after Christmas. They got to go back. So that's number one for us. Like the day after Christmas, those things are all out of here, whether we need them or not.
Yeah,
because they get absorbed and everyone likes them.
And we talked about not renting trucks. That was our strategy in one of our previous podcasts, that we don't rent trucks at peak. We buy new and kind of float those in. And due to the volume and due to the bulk, we ended up renting 3 to 4 trucks. So that was the first thing that we had our managers do, is we actually called and said, today's return the rental day, everybody get them off. And then I then took those, once I got the return slip, I made sure those were off our insurance. So, those are some things that we just kind of lose sight on. And then all of a sudden you're like, digging up returns to send to your insurance company to backdate coverages, and it's just messy. So to try to just make a list of those things each year as you go. And this year we added a couple housekeeping things, and next year I'm sure we'll add a couple more. But if you can kind of stay on track that, okay, it's, the first week in January, let's take a deep breath and let's, get some of these housekeeping items cleaned up and done.
Absolutely. I know one of the things, and you kind of touched on it, is right sizing your staff. And that's always a big concern, going into peak and coming out of peak, having those extra people on. So, what are the different things that you've seen over the years and how it's, changed for you today compared to in the past, or in all that?
Yeah, so I think, Dave, if you want to talk about like when we first started, it was easy to just hire seasonal employees,
Yeah.
right? Like just for the season, landscapers, right? Firefighters, whatever that looked like. And I think it was easier then. Today, we have to start so early that there's not just like, okay, you can turn you on in November and then shut you off January 1st. So there really isn't a seasonal, like these people are working for us in July or August that we're bringing on for the peak season just because of onboarding, the classes, Schedule L, making sure everyone's safe, right? Like just getting everybody to the point where they can be productive at peak and not having new trainees at peak. So it's just it's a different game today. There's different rules. So, so to have somebody with you from July, I mean, they're pretty much a full-time employee. There's not a whole season that anybody on unemployment or any type of layoff is going to tolerate someone working for you for 6 months and then all of a sudden January not needing them. But for us, I guess before I jump into how we right size or what we've done to right size, there's some things that we've learned over the course of kind of doing this, which is first of all, job seekers, people that are looking for work, are more apt to find new opportunities on birthdays, their anniversaries, work anniversaries, and holidays, specifically the new year, kind of a new resolution, right? So as you are seeing that there's probably a lot of people that are looking for work, don't be surprised if some of your people are looking for work. And not because they hate you or they, don't want to do this anymore. I mean, right now we have probably 10 inches of snow on the ground here in Ohio. So it's the time where people don't want to work for us. Getting up and drudging through this is not great, but it is a time where people reassess kind of their life goals. So just to kind of have a pulse on that it may be time to start thinking about moving some people around, having some hard conversations, providing some career opportunities, and just, opening those dialogues with your people. It's also the time of year that it's a little expensive to keep employees, but it is cheaper to keep a good employee on staff. We're going to be coming into Valentine's Day and then tax season and then Mother's Day. Father's Day, I always tell Dave we don't get a lot of volume on Father's Day, but Mother's Day, the volume. And then we go into vacation season. And I know not everybody offers PTO or vacation time, but people are going to take time. We offer vacation, and because of the tenure in our company, I think we're awarding like 1,300 days of paid vacation this year. Not to mention, so that's like 3 years, right, of someone being off work. So to hang on to those people, it's a lot cheaper to hold on to these people now, invest in them, and let them stay, right? Find a place for them, whether that could be, a contingency opportunity or give people some time off after this. If you have some part-time people that don't like the snow, give them a couple weeks off, give them a couple days a week and fill it in, but you can get creative to do those things. Also, other contractors did hire seasonal people. So there are people that are already trained that are looking for new opportunities, a little bit formal. Maybe they got a job with one contractor, but they're looking, now that they like it, they're looking for someone that has benefits or whatever. So there could be some moves being made. But I think before you get into, oh my gosh, I got 10 people, I only got 8 routes, I need to cut, kind of think about those things so that you're not hiring during tax season and you're like, oh my gosh, here's the volume again. And now what does this look like? So I would just, kind of pause, if that would be my best recommendation as far as right sizing.
We have injuries too with the weather.
Yeah.
Well, in any case, but especially with weather, slips and falls and hurt ankles, hurt backs, just injuries in general. It's nice to have those.
Cold season,
Yeah,
like little flu.
Yeah, we have a lot
season.
of sick right now too. The drivers are sick, but we're able to keep rolling because we do have a little bit of extra staffing.
Yeah. So just some, and again, that's not, for us, we're growing. We're adding, we took on a couple more zip codes, we took on some new area, we're looking, so our strategy right now to not lay off or to not let anyone go or anything like that is different. But I think all of those points as to why we're not apply to any contractor, whether you're, 8 routes or 80 routes, all of these things apply just at a different level. And, and I think it's also a good time to review employees maybe that were struggling, that maybe are on your kind of quick exit list. Everybody has them, whether they were calling off or whatever. I think it's time to sit down with these people. And you can have some hard conversations because, to be frank, you don't want anybody to quit. But if you were afraid of having hard conversations during peak because you needed them, now is a time that you can afford to maybe spark those difficult conversations. And Dave has a great saying. He says, you're going to change the people or you're going to change the people. So you're either going to, have a conversation that's going to inspire some change in the positive and make that person kind of change some of the things they're doing, or they can make a transition into a different opportunity for them.
Definitely, that definitely makes sense. So, yeah, performance reviews, definitely a good time for that. So yeah, so let's kind of touch into some more like transactional items you mentioned, because there's kind of like a laundry list, the audits of everything. So let's get into a little bit of that.
Okay. So truck audits, I do these quarterly, but this is definitely the time of year if you don't do them quarterly. We get payoff values for all of our trucks and then revalue the trucks with our insurance company. So if the truck was originally 65 grand and now it's only the payoff is 45 grand, I reassess that insurance to a $45,000 payment, coverage level. It seems crazy, but it can save you several $1,000s a month. And when you're, kind of in this transition of keeping somebody or profitability with the volume down or snow and 82s and all the things that we have to deal with, those dollars add up quite a bit. And then obviously, like Dave said, get rid of the rentals, get them off your insurance, do an insurance audit, make sure you're not covering any trucks that you've gotten rid of, and make sure that all the trucks that, that you do have are covered. That one's not as hard because it's mandated to get trucks approved, but covering excess trucks and for excess value is definitely something. You can even consider your deductible. We moved ours over the years from a $500 deductible to a $1,000 deductible. And it makes a world of difference in your everyday. But those are things that you can look at in the beginning of the year and see if it would make a change. As Dave mentioned, the scanner audit, we have like almost 200 scanners. So it's a lot to keep managed, the scanner batteries, just kind of making sure that all the scanners that are on our trucks are the ones that say Slicker Trucking, right? You ever get one that sits on the back of a bumper and somebody picks it up and then all of a sudden, right, you're flip-flopping and all that. You go to get insurance, you're like, this isn't even our scanner, right?
We also use it to find scanners that maybe there's 2 in a truck, one's under the seat that fell, and they just the driver got a new scanner, and that one's been missing, but we're still paying for it, so we can track it down and get with the vendor. They'll track it for us, tell us the last day used, what driver used it. We can track what truck and kind of do some due diligence to kind of button that process up. So we do a monthly scanner audit in the operation, and it's due on the same day across the board. We reconcile it, and any missing scanners, we will do a second audit or call and see last used where it was at, because we found we were missing last peak. We were missing like 25 scanners. So we tracked them all down right before peak, which we would have rented 25 scanners.
Yeah.
So it was a huge savings for us just to do a little legwork and find our scanners.
I mean, and they're in people's backpacks and lunch boxes.
Old employees still had them, and we would just call the old employees and say, hey, do you happen to have a scanner? And they say, actually, I do. and they mail them back to us, or we send a
Yeah.
label to them,
Or
they ship them.
the overhead in some of the cargo van or in the box trucks kind of goes down on a slope. They fall in there and get covered up
Yeah.
with papers and bags and whatever else. So just do a monthly kind of sweep
Yep.
just to make sure that those are good. And then as Dave mentioned, get rid of those rentals, get them off so that you're not
Yeah.
charged another, because they'll do a month after that and they'll assess you for not getting it back in time. So
We also look into our maintenance providers. Even us with our own shop, we look at our mechanics. How did they do? How we have mobile units that we use. How did they do? Were they overworked? Were they underworked? Did they have more capacity? Were they at max capacity?
were we using the wrong parts?
Were we
You did-
using the wrong parts? Should we have maybe used an outside vendor to do some of the work, maybe tires or something like that? We look at that. We also look, we don't have it specifically, but you want to look at if you overpaid. Are people just charging you a lot because they know you need the trucks on the road because it's Christmas season and you can't afford to have the truck down for more than a day or two, or even at all, so they can kind of put a cost on that convenience to you. And then use the time to establish good relationships with your vendors. And you go in before peak, you say, hey, look, it's going to be busy for us. We kind of need some good service. If they give you good service, maybe give them a little more business during the year and make them maybe your go-to vendor for this or for that. Even if they're not the cheapest, maybe the quality of work and a little bit increase in cost is worth it to you and your business. And then we do the tire and oil change audits. We give everything breaks before peak starts, and coming out, we're doing full tire audits on the whole fleet to get everything back on track. We're doing full audits on oil changes and what's due, what's not due, is anything overdue, and we're getting everything caught up and back on track so that the fleet doesn't fall behind on maintenance.
And then terminal staff meetings, we like to have a kind of BRM, I guess, if you will, TRM. I don't know. Reverse BRM. I don't know how you want to say it, but a business review meeting with our terminal. And we talk about the things that worked and didn't work. So very much like a metals meeting, I guess you would say. We sit down with our terminal staff and kind of go over the good, the bad, and the ugly, what we could have done different. If there's still need, if they still, want us to help, if there's any additional opportunity, uncovering some of those opportunities to put some of those maybe excess staffers on, but to really just sit down and kind of talk to them as partners, right? As to what needed to be done. The 300 belt had great loaders, the 200 belt, my guys are screaming, right? And kind of what that looks like and how we can kind of help them and how they can help us come out of this and start the new year on a positive foot. So those are huge. Again, ask about the growth opportunities, identify improvements, and then just a quick list about housekeeping, which is your EPLI recertification, so your employee protection liabilities insurance, your NTL and your P&D insurance, that'll be renewed. BWC renewals, and all of these things, Marsh should be emailing you to get these new certificates. If they're not, you don't want to be deadlined, so just try to stay ahead of some of these things. If your line haul 2290s are going to be coming up in a month or two, if your line haul plates are probably coming due, we just got a stack of plates for one of our lease. They all come in the first of the year. So those forms need to get to the new registrations, need to get to the terminal, they need to get in the trucks. Just again, some just basic housekeeping. The new year, there's the alcohol carry form that we're supposed to have in the trucks that permits us to deliver alcohol products. That should be a new year. There should be a 2025. So getting that in all of your trucks. The DOT handbook does have an expiration date. That little teeny book that needs to go in there. Make sure that one's current. We have a truck document folder. It's a red, I don't even think I have one. Maybe I do have one. It looks like this. Big red folder, and it goes in everybody's truck. So no matter what truck you're in, if you're in an accident or if you're pulled over or you need anything from the line haul trucks to the P&D trucks, you look for this red folder, and you can find all the documents you need. Basically just hand it to them and say, everything you need is in here, right? So if you're new or you're, not good with, risk type of situations or tense situations, you can just hand them the folder and everything's in there. So we make sure those things are all updated. Your FAI inspections, so your truck inspections, make sure those are all good. DOT certifications and your CT, right? So anybody's med cards, make sure that you kind of take a 60, 90-day look. First Advantage can let you do some reporting, pull those, make sure you're ahead of those so that you don't just get deadlined. Oh my gosh, I didn't know. Driver's licenses, birthdays, we kind of keep track of that. We send messages to our guys and let them know they're, hey, don't forget it's your birthday. And then also the CT, stay ahead of your qual cert, make sure your recerts are done. Those are all coming up for a lot of contractors right now. So we got through, I think we had ours all through the 15th of January so that we didn't have to, we did them early so we didn't have to scramble during peak. And now we're going to ramp back up. So we have a class on Thursday with some of our drivers. And that's also another way of getting your people off the road, right? So if you need a day where you're a little bit overstaffed, grab a couple of people and throw them in a class and get that recertification process going. So those are just, like I said, I know it's a lot and it kind of, but good thing it's videoed. But there are a lot of housekeeping items that you learn over the years that just can fall in the cracks. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I need to do that. Or, so I think it's just a good time of year to kind of just put some checks and balances in place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In personal life and business, I feel like that applies across.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, real quick before we kind of hop into Q&A and listings and things like that, what are a few things that y'all are, looking at kind of tying together? What's next for Slicker over the next couple of months?
Growth.
We're looking at growth.
Yeah.
Where to grow, how to grow, when to grow. We just bought 2 new line haul tractors, so we'll get those onboarded and rolling. So that'll kind of kill some of our January time at the shop. It might get a little slow. Those guys will work to get that onboarded. We'll look to just make improvements in the operation in general. Just anything we can do, whether it's behind the scenes or even on the forefront. We might do a focus on uniforms or things like that, and then just getting ready to get the year rolling. We're ready to go.
There's a couple new opportunities, P&D opportunities we're looking at. And then for me, on my side of things, and you guys have seen this at Expo and some of the things that I talk about are unique characteristics and renegotiations. So this is a great time of year because we're a little bit slower. I know a lot of times, we'll be on Facebook or we'll be talking to our managers and we're like, this always happens. This one stop always does this. Or when, the summer hits, there's festivals in this little block of the city town. And on Saturdays, I can never get through. Those are great things to document when you're not up against a renegotiation or a negotiation, right? Document it when you have the time, even if you just put bullet points and a topic down, and then go back and fill it out and then submit it to your SPS, which is your, or your BDS, whatever you want to call them, your service provider specialist. Send it to them and they will forward it. And then remind them when you go into renegotiations, hey, don't forget, I sent you these 4 documents and I want them reviewed before we renegotiate. And if there is something that's causing you, our customer does not want us to fail. So I think by saying that, really take a look. If you are losing money and you're running things the best way you think you can, or there are some new factors that weren't considered, have a conversation, but you have to get your terminal manager involved. You have to get SPS involved, and you have to have a conversation that makes sense. Overpaying your guys so that you don't have to go to the terminal is not a unique characteristic. That's a privilege. But if there are some things that are truly unique and that have changed since the contract was signed, or that you've unraveled because it's a new contract, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this, this, and this. That's the time to bring these things up. Don't just wait until it's time to renegotiate. By the time you get there, they've already run the numbers. Engineering's already gotten involved and it's too late. So staying on top of your business, reviewing your own business for those characteristics, that's your responsibility. And they'll listen, but you got to do it in a formal way, right? Do it the right way. Get your numbers together. And then have those conversations. And I always find the beginning of the year is always a really good time to do that because I'm kind of fresh. We're through peak. You know, you kind of have a new outlook. It's kind of like your New Year's resolution, right? Like, I'm going to do things different now. And I think it's a good place to start. So just don't forget about those things. Those are some of the things that have a tendency to sit back and then bite us in the butt when we don't pay attention to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Get those unique characteristics written down. So perfect. Well, before we jump into the Q&A, just a quick reminder for everybody. If you do have questions on the content today, or like I said, really anything in general, go ahead and put that in the Q&A function now. And while people are putting in their questions, I'm going to go over some listings and events. So we do have one new listing this week. It's quite a big one in Central Alabama. It's 27 P&D routes listed at $2.1 million. It's got just over an 18% EBITDA with 31 employees, 45 trucks, and 3 managers. So 3 managers on staff, they handle the daily operations of the business. It's a rural territory, so it offers kind of easy routes for drivers, lower than average turnover. Like I said, it's a pretty large business out of Central Alabama. So if you're interested, take a look at that on our website. And then for events, we will post the link to the events in the chat if you're interested, but we do have one event in January, and that's going to be in Orlando, Florida. It's going to be a happy hour on January 21st, which is a Tuesday. So if you're in Florida, or if you want to go to Florida, where it's a little warmer than the rest of the country, sometime in January, we would love to see you at our happy hour for that. So it looks like we do have some Q&A questions. Let me pull those up here. So we've got first question here is, how much of these kind of new year activities, these checklist items, are the managers doing versus the owners?
We try to give as much to the managers as we can. We'll handle like the insurance and the truck value part. The scanner audits, I oversee it, but the managers do all the legwork on that, and I kind of manage that with them. And then the maintenance, we'll include them in the maintenance. The managers we'll ask them to kind of get their data together, since we're in multiple terminals, and they'll sit with us and they'll talk to us about that. The red folder audits, you have the managers go through all of that.
Yep, red folder and document. We have an office assistant here. She'll get all the documents together and put them in kind of folders for each terminal. So each terminal has their own folder, and then the manager or the BC for that area will come in, grab that folder, and then they know what they need to update. But the managers, the local BCs, and again, if you've seen our conversations before, Dave and I are executive level. We have a GM, and then we have 3 senior managers, and then our local BCs, and those are the guys that report to those terminals every single day. The senior managers are in rotation. So our local BCs, the guys that show up, do the dro, do the schedule, manage the guys, those local level BCs are doing a lot of these tasks. They're doing the audits. They're giving the data to us or to our senior managers. Then we have the data to then execute on. We involve them with some of our, assessments, some of our recommendations, and we then work as a team to kind of implement whatever's next. But those local BC managers are the ones that are kind of doing the legwork. We also have our local BCs give some tasks to maybe team leads, which are the peer leader drivers that are looking to maybe next step into a BC role. So they will take on some additional tasks just to get them kind of prepared for what's next and to get involved. And they're eager to do so, but all that's done at the local level. AOs should not be doing that work. You should have someone in place that does that kind of investigative work and then give you the results or work alongside. But Dave and I are neither of us are too good to do the work. It's just you have people in place for a reason. So that answers, I think that's.
And it's slow, so it's good work. It's good time to do it because we're coming out of peak. They've been working on a lot of different things, and it's a good time for them to it kind of gives them a little bit more office time.
What's the next question?
So next we've got that red folder that you showed.
Oh,
What
yeah.
documents are placed in there?
So we actually have a cover sheet for that red folder, and it says everything that's supposed to be in it. So we start off with team lead and manager contact information, as well as phone numbers for CPC, and emergency contacts and tow truck companies. So we have all those phone numbers, so important contact information, terminal numbers, things like that. And then we have the insurance, the registration, the FAI, so the annual inspection, long form, the long form of the insurance, as well as the cab card. We have the
Alcohol.
the alcohol sheet, the current DOT handbook. We have then our personal information, right? So we have our labor law packet. So all your different things that if you had an establishment that you would post, FedEx, the BWC and the labor attorneys tell us that it's okay that we rely on the fact that those Ohio labor laws are posted at the Ohio terminal by FedEx. We like to put all of ours in a folder. Essentially, the guys are reporting to those trucks, and those trucks are their office. So I make sure that, you know, the gun carry law, the minor law, the labor laws, hours, breaks, all those posters that are supposed to be posted in your establishment. We have a packet of those that go in that booklet. Also, our BWC shortcuts, who to call if you're injured, and then an injury packet. So required by BWC. So the first report of injury, that packet is in there.
Your FedEx accident packet.
Our FedEx accident packet is in there.
And sheets.
And hand sheets are in there in case the scanner dies. And then we have a customer care card that we put, we didn't want to call it a conflict card, but that essentially is what it is. It's a card that has our general manager's phone number on it, and it goes to a separate phone that he carries, not his personal phone, not his work phone. It's just a separate customer care line. And these are for customers that, you know, maybe got a little bit, you know, sticky with one of our drivers. I don't want to give you my driver's license. And then our guy's like, sorry, I can't give you the package. And there's some sort of conflict, or a customer's like, hey, I really don't like when you guys do this, or I want to talk to your manager, or I think you did this damage to my yard. And the guy's like, I didn't. It's just an easy way for our drivers to avoid conflict. And they hand them the card and it says, hey, here, I got to get to my next drop, you know, my next stop, but you can call my boss. You can call a representative at my company and they'll be happy to talk to you about whatever you need. And it just puts like 1 degree of separation between our driver and the customer, and it's formal and they really appreciate it. And then those calls get fielded to someone that's more suited to have that kind of conflict resolution kind of conversation. So those are in there as well. So everything that, if you think about in your business, anything that a driver would need to respond to an accident, an injury, a stuck, a breakdown, anything like that where you would think, oh my gosh, they're going to need this document, we've put it in that
Line
folder.
haul has to have the schedule.
Yeah, and with
statement of lease.
Yep, and with line haul, there's a couple other things that are required to be in the truck, the statement of lease, the schedule. So just a few other things for line haul that do need to be in there, the E22 or the 2290 tax form, the heavy duty tax form. And then cab cards, obviously registrations if you have apportioned plates or regular plates. So again, if you think about, we also have like the DOT logs, manual logs.
How to send it.
For line haul, if they're out and their logs stop working, you have to have paper logs to get them back. So just some things that over the years that we've kind of gathered that, you know, the drivers are like, oh my gosh, I wish I had this. We even have some drivers that if they're in a regular truck, they'll put a copy of their DOT physical in the folder, just so they know that they have it. God forbid, whatever happens, they like to be a little bit more prepared. So they double check and just kind of put that in there. That's not required by us. They just do that if it's their regular truck. But again, anything that you would think that you would need during any type of DOT stop, traffic stop, accident, breakdown, whatever, injury, those things need to be in that folder.
Perfect. And then the next question is basically, is there a template or a list of all these year-end tasks that we've kind of gone over today? I know that I have an email from you all that I could really make into a list. So we can cover that.
Okay.
If you want to email info@rawconsultant.com and just mention, hey, I would like to see the list for the year-end tasks. We can get that over to you.
Yeah, and I can send over some of the things that we do on the line haul side that we didn't include on this one, Leah, and then you can just forward it to whomever needs it.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Perfect. Again, info@rawconsultant.com. We can get anything you need on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next question is basically, are you all the AO for all of your contracts, or do you have any senior managers listed as your AO instead of you guys?
Good question.
Yeah.
I am the AO at all terminals. The
Line haul,
line,
custom critical,
yes,
and P&D.
I am the main AO.
Only AO.
Are the only AO.
Yeah.
The senior managers are listed as BCs on the contracts so that they can do business with FedEx. And then our terminal level BCs are actual BCs. But the terminal is really good about recognizing the levels
Yep.
management,
The senior manager
structured in our business.
Yeah, they do respect. It's taken. I mean, it didn't happen overnight, but we also didn't have senior managers overnight. Like that never was really a thing. It was Dave in a truck to start out, and then we kind of grew from there. But our managers are definitely, our senior managers are welcome at AO meetings. They never turn them away. There's only some that are like if there's an NDA or something specific going on in that contract that they won't let them in. But if it's just a normal AO meeting, they recognize the role that they play and that it's important for their success of the contract for them to be involved. So they welcome them into the meetings. They know that if, one of our senior managers says something, it would be like Dave saying it. And then it is odd, but Dave and we do have the same entity also. We have one V number for all 200 employees work under the same V number outside of custom critical because that's just a different animal. But our line haul contracts, our P&D contracts, everything is under one contract or one V number, one entity number. Line haul is all one, because we're in a hub area. So all 41 trucks are under one number, one contract, and our individual contracts are still in Dave's number. So we do that for ease of contract management when we move people around, because we are regional, moving people from contract to contract. I don't have to move them from what day they worked under what entity and pay them different. We did that for a couple years, and this just works out better. And it's also, it really does strengthen our culture and our brand. So not just the FedEx brand, but the Slicker brand, it means something. And when you have that big culture and have that kind of big support system, and everything is done consistently, it's just the way Slicker does it. And these are our Slicker policies, and there's one handbook, and this is kind of how we do it. And we just take the successes and replicate them, and take the mistakes and learn from them, and then replicate the solutions. And it just really has worked out for us. I think we get that question quite a bit. Because I know everybody does have it, like, well, what about the risk? If they take that contract, can they take your contract? And I think there's more value to us in being together than there is risk in losing a chunk or being downsized or what have you. We're still in growth mode 18 years later. So I don't foresee that being an issue. And we are definitely, we lean into compliance and all the things, doing kind of the right things. So, we don't have any open risks in that regard, knock on wood. You never know. but it is a different conversation. But yeah, I think that's led to a lot of the strength and success that our company's had.
Absolutely. Perfect. Well, that looks like it was our last question as of right now. I'll give it a couple more seconds in case anyone is actively typing. But I think that's probably it for today. Lots of great information, of course. And again, if anyone wants to get kind of a synthesized list, just shoot an email over to info@rockconsultant and we'll send that over to you. I know we've got an email or two, and I will do my best to get those to you all. But again, it's a little easier if you email info@rockconsultant than put it in the chat. Don't do that.
I
Perfect.
can go over this. We have a little bit of time. I can go over if anybody wants to take some quick notes.
Sure.
Again, some of the things just to reiterate, we're right sizing your staff and then thinking about, you know, taking on performance reviews when it comes to that, looking at anniversary dates and birth dates, as well as New Year change. We actually do a birthday post on our Facebook and an anniversary post on our Facebook every month. So it keeps those people forefront, and you would be surprised how many people their birthday and their work anniversary with us are in the same month. So it really does show that people do make change during these very important kind of milestones in their lives. So just kind of take a look at that. And then from the transactional side, truck insurance audit, return your rentals, scanner audits, return your scanners, revisit your maintenance providers, terminal staff meetings, try to gather some data and have a respectful conversation. I can't stress that enough. And then the FedEx housekeeping, your EPLI, it's a great time to requote these things too. So even if you're super happy or there's nothing wrong, it's not a bad idea to protect yourself as the business and requote or have conversations with some of your providers. Your EPLI, your non-trucking liability and physical damage, BWC, 2290. If you're line haul, that's the heavy duty tax required to provide services, plates and registrations, current year alcohol forms, make sure all those current forms are in your trucks, DOT handbook, truck document folders, if you have those. Again, we put not only our truck documents in there, but also our employment documents that are important to our employees. Your FAA inspections, your annual inspections, and then keep ahead of your DOT certifications, your med cards for your people, and their QualCert recert trainings. So whether you do it through Ground Cloud or you know, any of the other providers, just make sure that that doesn't kind of poke you. And that can all be found under your association, your workforce list. It has all those expiration dates. It's got your driver's license expiration dates for your drivers. It's got your DOT expirations, and it's got your QualCert expirations. So it's literally, if you just export that, copy paste it, put it in a spreadsheet, you'll have all the information, you know, as to what's due, and it won't bite you in the butt coming forward. So I think those are, like I said, those are kind of our hot topics. For line haul, we're coming up on plates. We do get plates through FedEx. So in February, those plates will come up. That's a big expense in February, the shortest month of the year. But that comes up, and then shortly after E2290s or 2290s are due. And then again, do the books for all lines of business. So just make sure your trucks are, you know, tire audits, oil change audits, right? All those things, just kind of getting ramped up to start the new year strong.
Perfect. That is a laundry list, but a good.
It is a laundry list, but it is, but that's why a lot of the things you have to make a list,
Yes.
to be fair, because these are things over 18 years that have snuck up on us.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody knows that you come in and you go to use your scanner and it says driver's license expired, and the guy's like, I didn't know it was my birthday. I'm like, what? Right? And like, what? Like, you just took off 2 days because it was your birthday.
Right.
Didn't go to the BMV. So just some things that, you know, again, things that just kind of have a tendency to bite you. We do these things almost quarterly, but it's a great time of year to get started in new habits.
Perfect. Well, we've got no more questions. Again, great list. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks.
And we will see you next time.
Sounds
All
good.
right, see ya.
Thanks, guys.